The stars looked different from the command deck of the Galactic Council ship. Ambassador Jinha stood with his hands clasped behind his back, watching as the blue-green planet grew larger on the main screen. Earth. Home to the species called humans. Final approach to Earth's moon, announced the pilot. We will land at the designated site in 20 minutes. Jinha nodded. After years of secret observation, the Council had finally decided it was time to make contact with humans. But not full contact. Limited contact. Controlled contact. Is the technology containment protocol in place? Jinha asked, turning to his security chief. Quan, a stocky man with serious eyes, checked his tablet. Yes, Ambassador. All advanced systems are locked down. The warp drive core is sealed in Section 7 with triple-layer security. Good. Jinha had been very clear about the rules. Humans were not ready for certain technologies. The Council had strict guidelines about this. A species needed to reach certain social and ethical milestones before they could be trusted with the power to travel between stars. Harin, the mission's chief scientist, joined them at the viewport. Her dark eyes studied the planet with interest. There, satellites have detected us, she reported. Their governments are scrambling to respond. It's exactly as we predicted. Jinha allowed himself a small smile. Then let's not keep them waiting. The first meeting with Earth's leaders went as planned. There was fear, then wonder, then the beginning of trust. Jinha explained that the Galactic Council wished to establish peaceful relations with Earth. They would share some technology and knowledge, but not all. Not yet. Your species has great potential, Jinha told the room full of world leaders. But you must understand that there are rules to joining the galactic community. Some technologies must be earned through social progress. What technologies are you keeping from us? Asked the American president. A direct question that made Jinha uncomfortable. Nothing that you need right now, Jinha replied smoothly. We will guide your development over the coming centuries. Later, as the Earth delegation toured the lunar base that would serve as the Council's outpost, Jinha noticed one human paying special attention to the locked doors of Section 7. The man was introduced as Rex, a physicist from one of Earth's top research facilities. What's in there? Rex asked, nodding toward the sealed door. Storage, Jinha lied. Nothing important. Rex smiled, but his eyes held something that made Jinha uneasy. Curiosity, challenge. It was hard to read human expressions sometimes. Of course, Rex said, nothing important. 3 weeks into the diplomatic mission, Jinha was pleased with their progress. The humans were eager to learn about the simpler technologies the Council was willing to share. Medical advances, clean energy, food production methods. They asked many questions but seemed to accept the limits placed on them. They're adapting well, Harin reported during their daily briefing. Their scientists are quick learners. Too quick, perhaps, Quan said. They're making connections we didn't expect. The American team has already improved our water purification system. Jinha frowned. Improved it? How? They made it 30% more efficient using materials we didn't consider compatible, Harin explained. It's impressive and concerning, added Quan. I've increased security on all restricted areas, especially Section 7. Jinha nodded his approval. The warp drive was the Council's most closely guarded technology. It allowed ships to bend space to travel vast distances in moments. In the wrong hands, it could be devastating. The Council had seen civilizations tear themselves apart after gaining warp technology too soon. The humans will be visiting again tomorrow, Jinha reminded his team. Let's make sure everything is in order. The next day, Earth sent a new delegation to the lunar base. This group included more scientists and fewer politicians. Rex was among them, along with a new face, Jake Morrison, introduced as a technical advisor to the American government. We're honored by your willingness to share knowledge, Jake said during the formal greeting. Earth has much to learn from the Galactic Council. And we have things to learn from you as well, Jinha replied politely. Your adaptability is remarkable. The day proceeded with scheduled tours and demonstrations. Jinha noticed that Rex and Jake often spoke quietly to each other, their eyes constantly moving, taking in details. When the tour passed near Section 7, both men seemed to pay special attention to the security measures. That night, after the humans had returned to Earth, Jinha couldn't sleep. Something felt wrong. He got up and went to the command center, where the night shift monitored the base. "Any unusual activity?" he asked the officer on duty. "All systems normal, Ambassador," the officer reported, though there was a minor power fluctuation in Section 4 about an hour ago. Maintenance checked it out, just a routine system adjustment. Jinha frowned. Section 4 was near Section 7. "Show me the security feeds for Section 7. The screens displayed the sealed door to the warp drive chamber. Everything looked normal. The security panel showed green across all systems. "Run a full diagnostic on the security system," Jinha ordered. "Sir, that's not scheduled until—" "Now, please." The officer complied, typing commands into the console. After a moment, he looked up in confusion. "That's strange. The system says everything is fine, but there's a tiny delay in the feedback loop. Almost too small to notice." Jinha felt a chill run down his spine. "Open the door to Section 7, now." The officer entered the override code. The massive door slid open, revealing the chamber beyond. Jinha rushed inside, the officer following behind. The warp drive core, the heart of their faster-than-light technology, was gone. "Sound the alarm," Jinha shouted. "Lock down the base. Contact Earth immediately." Sirens blared throughout the lunar outpost. Quan arrived minutes later, his face pale with shock when he saw the empty chamber. "Impossible," he whispered. "The security was unbreakable." "Apparently not," Jinha said grimly. "Get me a direct line to Earth's leaders, now." 3 hours. Later, Jinha sat in the base's conference room, surrounded by his senior staff. The large screen on the wall showed the faces of Earth's top officials. They looked solemn. "Ambassador Jinha," began the United Nations Secretary General, "we understand there has been a misunderstanding." "Misunderstanding?" Jinha could barely contain his anger. "Your people stole our most advanced technology we explicitly kept from you for your own protection." "Not stole," corrected the American president. "Borrowed, and we're prepared to return it immediately." Jinha blinked in surprise. "Return it? You mean you haven't destroyed it in your attempts to understand it?" A new face appeared on the screen. Rex, the physicist who had shown such interest in Section 7. "Actually, Ambassador," Rex said, "we not only understood it, we improved it." "Impossible," Harin said from beside Jinha. "The warp core technology took our civilization thousands of years to develop. You've had it for 3 hours. 3 hours and 22 minutes, Rex corrected with a small smile. "And yes, we've improved it. Your quantum field stabilizers were inefficient. We redesigned them." Jinha felt the room spinning around him. This couldn't be happening. No species in Council history had ever reverse-engineered warp technology, let alone improved it, especially not in ours. "We'd like to send a team to return the core," Jake Morrison said, joining Rex on the screen, "and to discuss a more equal partnership moving forward." Jinha struggled to find words. The Council protocols never prepared him for this. Humans weren't just breaking the rules of first contact, they were rewriting them entirely. "Ambassador?" prompted the Secretary General. "Will you receive our team?" Jinha looked at his staff. Quan looked worried. Harin looked fascinated. This was a turning point, Jinha realized. Everything would change after today. "Yes," he finally said. "Send your team. We have much to discuss." As the call ended, Harin leaned close to Jinha. "What will you tell the Council?" Jinha stared at the blank screen, still processing what had happened. "I'll tell them we need to rethink everything we thought we knew about humans," he said quietly. "They're not like any species we've encountered before." And that, Jinha realized, was what frightened him most of all. The lunar base hummed with tension as Jinha paced the landing bay. 6 hours had passed since the humans had admitted to taking the warp core. Now they were returning, supposedly with the stolen technology. "Security teams in position?" "Jinha," asked Quan. Yes, Ambassador, but I'm not sure what good it will do. Quan's voice was tight with frustration. They bypassed our best systems once already. Harin stood nearby, reviewing data on her tablet. I've been analyzing the security breach. They didn't force their way in. They tricked our systems into thinking nothing was wrong. How is that possible? Jinha asked. I don't know yet. But it suggests a level of understanding about our technology that should be impossible for them. The base's communication system crackled to life. Human shuttle requesting permission to dock. They report 4 passengers with technical equipment. Jinha took a deep breath. Grant permission, but scan everything they bring aboard. The sleek Earth shuttle eased into the docking bay with surprising grace. It was one of their own designs, not Council technology. Jinha noted how quickly they had adapted their spacecraft for lunar landings after first contact. The shuttle's door opened, and 4 humans emerged. Rex and Jake led the group, followed by 2 others carrying a large container between them. Ambassador. Jinha, Jake greeted with a small bow. Thank you for receiving us. Jinha did not return the pleasantry. You have brought back what you took? Rex nodded. Yes, and we'd like to explain a few things if you'll allow it. Jinha gestured to the container. Open it. The human set the container down and unsealed it. Inside was what appeared to be the warp core, but it looked different, smaller, more streamlined. Several components had been redesigned. Quan stepped forward with a scanning device. This isn't our core, this is something else. It's your core, Rex insisted. We've just made some changes. Harin moved closer, her scientific curiosity overcoming her caution. What changes? We should discuss this somewhere more comfortable, Jake suggested. This is going to take some explaining. 20 minutes later, they sat in the base's conference room. The modified warp core sat on a special stand in the center of the table. Harin circled it slowly, scanning it with various instruments. This is impossible, she muttered. The quantum field matrix has been completely reconfigured. We found a way to stabilize the field with 40% less energy, Rex explained. Your design was wasting power fighting against itself. Jinha struggled to maintain his diplomatic composure. You expect us to believe that in less than a day, you not only understood technology that took our civilization millennia to develop, but improved upon it? Jake leaned forward. Ambassador, I understand your skepticism, but you need to understand something about humans. We think differently than you do. Clearly, Jinha said dryly. No, I mean fundamentally differently. Jake continued. Your species develops technology in a linear, methodical way. You perfect each step before moving to the next. Humans, we jump around. We make intuitive leaps. We try things that shouldn't work. Rex nodded. When we saw your warp core, we didn't see thousands of years of careful development. We saw a solution to a problem we've been thinking about for decades. Our theoretical physicists have been working on warp theory since the 1990s. Without any practical success, Jinha pointed out. True, Rex admitted. We lacked the materials and some key insights, but we had the mathematical framework. When we saw your core, it was like finding the missing pieces to a puzzle we'd been working on for generations. Harin looked up from her scans. Ambassador, they're telling the truth. This is our core, but they've made significant changes. And the changes make sense. They've eliminated the tachyon cascade issue we've struggled with for centuries. Jinha felt a headache forming behind his eyes. This was not how first contact was supposed to go. The Council had clear protocols. Advanced species guided younger ones slowly, carefully. They didn't have their technology stolen, improved, and handed back to them like a child's homework corrected by a teacher. Why did you take it? Jinha asked finally. Why not just ask to study it? Jake and Rex exchanged glances. Would you have let us? Jake asked simply. Jinha couldn't lie. No, the Council has strict rules about technology sharing. That's why, Rex said. We knew you were hiding your best tech from us. We saw the special security on Section 7. We figured it had to be something important. So you just decided to steal it? Quan's voice was sharp with anger. We decided to learn, Jake corrected. And now we're returning it better than before. That's a fair exchange, isn't it? Jinha stared at the humans. Their logic was alien to him. In council society, rules were followed. Authority was respected. The idea of taking something forbidden, improving it, and then returning it as if that made everything acceptable, it was madness. And yet, he couldn't deny the results, sitting on the table before him. How did you get past our security? Quan asked, professional curiosity overcoming his anger. Rex smiled slightly. We noticed your systems use a quantum entanglement verification protocol. Very advanced, but it has a tiny flaw. It trusts its own readings too much. We created a feedback loop that made your system think everything was normal while we bypassed the physical locks. Quan looked stunned. That shouldn't be possible. For most species, it probably isn't, Jake said. But humans have a talent for finding weaknesses in systems. It's both our greatest strength and our greatest flaw. Jinha felt a chill run down his spine. If humans could break council security so easily, what else could they do? Ambassador, Haran said quietly, I've completed my analysis. Their modifications are real. The core is now 43% more efficient and can achieve higher warp factors with greater stability. The room fell silent as everyone absorbed this information. What happens now? Rex asked finally. Jinha sighed. I must report this to the Galactic Council. They will not be pleased. Will they punish you? Jake asked, looking concerned. This isn't your fault. The failure of the mission is my responsibility, Jinha said stiffly. Rex leaned forward. Ambassador, we didn't do this to cause trouble. We did it because your council's approach doesn't work for us. Humans don't develop on the same timeline as other species. We need to learn at our own pace. By stealing technology? Quan asked. By engaging with it directly, Jake corrected. Look, we understand your concerns. You're worried we'll use warp technology to spread conflict across the stars, but that's not what we want. What do you want? Jinha asked. Partnership, Rex said simply. Not as students, but as equals. We have things to learn from you, yes. But you also have things to learn from us. Haran looked up from the modified warp core. He's right, Ambassador. These modifications, they're brilliant. Our engineers would never have tried this approach. Jinha felt trapped between duty and reality. The council would expect him to condemn the humans, to impose sanctions, perhaps even to break off contact. But the evidence before him suggested that humans weren't just another developing species to be guided. They were something the council had never encountered before. I need to consult with my superiors, Jinha said finally. This situation is unprecedented. Jake nodded. We understand. But while you're talking to them, you might want to mention one more thing. Jinha raised an eyebrow. What's that? We've already built our own warp drive, Rex said quietly. Using what we learned from yours. It's being installed in a ship as we speak. The room fell completely silent. Jinha stared at the humans, seeing them truly for the first time. Not as a primitive species to be guided, but as something new and unpredictable in the galaxy. And that, he realized, was what the Council feared most of all. The emergency meeting of the Galactic Council began at what Earth would call midnight. Jinha stood before the holographic projections of 17 Council members, representing the oldest and most advanced civilizations in the known galaxy. Ambassador, Jinha, began the Council elder, a tall being with pale blue skin. Explain how humans acquired warp technology. Jinha kept his voice steady. They breached our security and took the warp core. Within hours, they had not only understood it but improved it. Murmurs spread through the council. Most sounded angry or frightened. Impossible, declared the Rigelian representative. No species could reverse engineer warp technology so quickly. I thought the same, Jinha admitted. But I have seen the evidence myself. Their modifications are real and effective. Harin stepped forward, holding data tablets. I have verified their changes. The humans found ways to stabilize the quantum field that our engineers never considered. They approached the problem from a completely different angle. The council elder's expression darkened. This is a disaster. A pre-warp civilization should not have this technology. You know the protocols, Ambassador. I do, Jinha said, but I believe the protocols may not apply in this case. Explain, demanded another council member. Jinha took a deep breath. The protocols assume that technological development follows a predictable path, but humans don't develop like other species. They make intuitive leaps. They try approaches that seem illogical. That makes them dangerous, the Rigelian insisted. Unpredictable species cannot be trusted with warp technology. They could spread conflict across the galaxy. Jinha hesitated, then decided to share the most troubling news. There is more. The humans have already built their own warp drive. They are installing it on a ship now. The council chamber erupted in shocked voices. The elder raised a hand for silence. How is this possible? The elder asked. They had no warp capability when you arrived. They learned from our design, Harin explained. But they didn't just copy it. They understood the principles behind it and created their own version. Quan, who had been silent until now, added, their minds work differently. They see patterns and connections that we miss. It's as if they're wired to find shortcuts. The council elder looked grim. Then we must act quickly. The containment protocols must be implemented. Jinha knew what that meant. The council would send ships to establish a blockade around Earth's solar system. Humans would be confined to their home system until the council decided they were ready for the wider galaxy, which could take centuries. With respect, Jinha said carefully, I don't believe containment is possible now. Explain, the elder demanded. The humans have warp technology. If we try to contain them, they will simply go around us. And their approach to problems suggests they would find ways to counter any measures we implement. Are you suggesting we do nothing? Asked the Rigelian, outraged. I am suggesting we try something new, Jinha replied. Something the council has never done before. What do you propose? The elder asked. Partnership, Jinha said simply. Not as teachers and students, but as equals. The council chamber fell silent. The idea was radical, unprecedented. The council had always guided younger species, controlling their development, deciding what they were ready to learn. They stole our technology, the Rigelian pointed out. That is not the action of a trustworthy partner. They took it, improved it, and returned it, Jinha corrected. In their culture, that's not theft, it's innovation. Harin stepped forward again. Council members, I have studied the modifications they made to our warp core. Their approach solves problems our engineers have struggled with for generations. We have things to learn from them, just as they have things to learn from us. Council elder looked troubled. You are asking us to ignore thousands of years of established protocol. I am asking you to adapt, Jinha said, just as humans adapt. If we try to contain them, we will fail. If we try to control them, we will create enemies. But if we partner with them, we might gain valuable allies. The council members looked at each other, uncertainty clear in their expressions. This was not how things were done. The council guided. It controlled. It decided. We will consider your recommendation, the elder said finally. But until a decision is made, you are to maintain the diplomatic mission. Do not share any further technology with the humans. Jinha bowed his head. Understood. As the holographic projections faded, Jinha turned to his team. They won't decide quickly, the council never does. And meanwhile, the humans are building warp ships, Quan said grimly. Yes, Jinha agreed. Which means we need to prepare for what happens when they leave their solar system, with or without council approval. 3 days later, Jinha received an urgent message from Earth. The humans requested his presence at a facility in a place called Nevada. After getting reluctant permission from the council, Jinha, Ha-Rin, and Quan traveled to Earth in a small diplomatic shuttle. They landed at a remote desert facility surrounded by mountains. Jake Morrison met them at the landing pad. "Thank you for coming, Ambassador," Jake said, shaking Jinha's hand. "We have something to show you." He led them into a massive hangar. Inside was a spacecraft unlike anything Jinha had ever seen. It was smaller than council ships, with sleek lines and unusual design elements. "This is the Phoenix," Jake said with pride. "Earth's first warp-capable vessel." Jinha stared at the ship. It should have taken decades to design and build such a craft. "How is this possible? It's been less than a week since you took our warp core." Rex emerged from inside the ship, wiping his hands on a cloth. "We've been building the ship for months. We just didn't have a working warp drive until now." "You were building a warp ship before you had warp technology?" Ha-Rin asked, confused. "Of course," Rex said, as if it were obvious. "We've been theorizing about warp travel for decades. We had the hull design, the life support systems, the navigation. We just needed the engine." Jinha shook his head in disbelief. "Your council approved this?" Jake laughed. "Earth doesn't have one council like yours. We have many governments, but yes, this is a joint project between several nations." "And what do you plan to do with this ship?" Quan asked, suspicion clear in his voice. "Explore," Rex said simply. "That's what humans do. We see what's over the next hill. We climb the mountain because it's there." "The council will not approve," Jinha warned. "They are still deciding how to respond to your acquisition of warp technology." Jake's expression grew serious. "With respect, Ambassador, we're not asking for permission. We're extending an invitation." "An invitation?" Ha-Rin asked. "Yes," Rex confirmed. "We want representatives from the Galactic Council to join our first warp flight, to show that we want cooperation, not conflict." Jinha was stunned. This was not how newly warp-capable species behaved. They usually tested their technology in secret, established colonies, built their presence before engaging with other species. "When is this flight scheduled?" Jinha asked. "Tomorrow," Jake replied. "Tomorrow?" Quan repeated, shocked. "You can't be serious. A new warp drive needs months of testing." Rex shrugged. "We've run the simulations. The math checks out. We're ready." Jinha studied the humans carefully. Their confidence wasn't arrogance, it was certainty based on understanding. They had taken apart the warp core, grasped its principles, and rebuilt it in their own way. They weren't guessing. They knew. "I will need to consult with the council," Jinha said. "Of course," Jake agreed. "But we hope you'll join us. This could be the beginning of a new relationship between Earth and the galactic community." As they were led on a tour of the Phoenix, Ha-Rin whispered to Jinha, "They've done in days what took other species centuries. How is this possible?" Jinha watched as Rex explained the ship's systems to Quan, who was asking increasingly technical questions. "I think," Jinha said slowly, "that we have been measuring species by the wrong standards. We look at how long they take to develop technology. Perhaps we should be looking at how they think about problems." "And how do humans think?" Ha-Rin asked. Jinha considered the question. "Differently," he said finally. "They don't follow paths. They jump across them. They don't accept limitations. They see them as challenges." "Is that good or bad?" Ha-Rin wondered. Jinha watched as Rex showed Quan a navigation system that combined council principles with human innovations in a way no council engineer would have considered. "I don't know," Jinha admitted. "But I think the galaxy is about to find out." Jinha stood before the council again, this time with urgent news. The holographic faces of the 17 council members showed varying degrees of alarm as he described the human ship. "They call it the Phoenix," Jinha explained. "It's ready for its first warp flight tomorrow." "Tomorrow?" The elder's voice rose in disbelief. "That's impossible. No species builds a functional warp ship so quickly." "Humans do," Jinha said simply, "and they've invited council representatives to join them." The council chamber erupted in voices. Some called for immediate action to stop the flight. Others demanded a blockade of Earth's system. A few suggested more extreme measures. The elder raised a hand for silence. Ambassador Jinha, what is your assessment of the situation? Jinha chose his words carefully. I believe attempting to stop them would be both futile and unwise. Their ship is ready. If we refuse their invitation, they will fly without us. And go where? Asked the Rigelian representative. They know nothing of the galaxy beyond their system. They know what they learned from our databases during first contact, Harin pointed out. Basic star maps, locations of nearby systems, enough to begin exploration. Quan, who had been studying the Phoenix's systems, added, their ship is small but impressive. They've combined our warp principles with their own engineering approaches. Some of their solutions are unorthodox but effective. The council elder looked troubled. You seem to admire their achievements, Security Chief Quan. Quan straightened. I recognize their capabilities, Elder. As a security professional, I believe it's dangerous to underestimate them. A new voice joined the discussion. The representative from Centauri, one of the younger council species. Perhaps we should consider the humans' invitation. If we join their first flight, we can observe them directly. Learn more about how they think, and show goodwill. Jinha added. They're reaching out for cooperation, not confrontation. The Rigelians scoffed. After they stole our most guarded technology, that is not cooperation. By our standards, no, Jinha conceded. But humans operate differently. They see barriers as challenges to overcome, not rules to respect. That makes them dangerous, the Rigelian insisted. It makes them different, the Centauri representative countered. And difference is not always dangerous. The council elder studied Jinha carefully. You've spent the most time with these humans, Ambassador. Do you believe they pose a threat to galactic stability? Jinha considered the question seriously. The council's primary concern had always been maintaining peace among the thousands of species that shared the galaxy. New warp-capable species were guided slowly into this community to prevent conflicts. I believe humans will change the galaxy, Jinha said finally. Whether that change is positive or negative depends on how we respond to them now. The elder nodded slowly. A diplomatic answer. An honest one, Jinha replied. Humans are unpredictable by our standards. They make connections we wouldn't consider. They solve problems in ways we wouldn't attempt. That makes them valuable potential allies or formidable potential adversaries. The council chamber fell silent as the members considered his words. What do you recommend, Ambassador? The elder asked. Accept their invitation, Jinha said without hesitation. Join their first warp flight. Show them that the council is willing to adapt, just as they adapt. Begin building a relationship based on mutual respect, not control. The council members looked at each other, communicating in the subtle ways of species that had worked together for millennia. Jinha waited, knowing that what happened next would shape the relationship between humans and the galactic community for generations to come. Very well, the elder said finally. Ambassador Jinha, you and your team will represent the council on this human warp flight. Observe everything. Report back immediately. The council will then decide on our long-term approach to Earth. Jinha bowed his head. Thank you, Elder. As the holographic projections faded, Harin turned to Jinha. They're afraid, she said, quietly. Yes, Jinha agreed. And they should be. Not because humans are threatening, but because they represent change. The council has operated the same way for thousands of years. Humans don't fit their model. And you? Quan asked. Are you afraid? Jinha considered the question. I'm curious. More curious than I've been in centuries of diplomatic service. The Nevada desert was cool in the early morning as Jinha, Harin, and Quan approached the Phoenix. The ship gleamed in the dawn light, its unusual design both beautiful and strange to council eyes. Rex met them at the entry ramp. dressed in what appeared to be a flight suit. "Welcome, Ambassador. We're honored you accepted our invitation. The Council is interested in observing your achievement," Jinha said formally. Rex smiled. "You mean they want to see if we blow ourselves up?" Jinha was startled by the directness, but Harin laughed. "Something like that," she admitted. "Fair enough," Rex said good-naturedly. "I'd be worried too if some newcomers suddenly started playing with warp technology. Come aboard. Jake is finishing the pre-flight checks." The interior of the Phoenix was compact but thoughtfully designed. 6 seats were arranged in the command center with displays showing ship systems and navigation data. Jake looked up from the main console. "Ambassador, welcome aboard. We've prepared seats for you and your team. The flight should take about 4 hours total." "4 hours?" Quan asked. "Where are we going?" "Alpha Centauri," Jake replied casually. It seemed like a good first step. Close enough to be safe. Far enough to properly test the warp drive. Jinha exchanged glances with Harin. Alpha Centauri was indeed the closest star system to Earth, but it was still over 4 light-years away. A 4-hour round trip would mean their warp drive was remarkably efficient. "Your confidence is impressive," Jinha said carefully. Rex grinned. "We've run thousands of simulations. The math works." "Math is not the same as practical experience," Quan pointed out. "True," Jake acknowledged. "That's why we're starting small, just a quick jump to our nearest neighbor and back." As they settled into their seats, Jinha noticed other humans boarding the ship. A woman with dark hair took the pilot's seat, while 2 men began checking various systems. "Our crew," Jake explained. "The best minds Earth has to offer." Jinha studied them. They looked ordinary, no different from any other humans he had met. Yet these people had taken apart and improved technology that had taken the Council civilizations millennia to develop. They had built this ship in months. They were about to attempt their first warp flight, with the casual confidence of species that had been traveling the stars for generations. "Are you nervous, Ambassador?" Rex asked, noticing Jinha's intense observation. "Curious," Jinha replied honestly. "This is unprecedented in Council records." "Being first is what humans do best," Rex said with a smile. "We're always pushing boundaries." The ship's systems came to life around them. Displays lit up showing engine status, navigation coordinates, and a multitude of data that Jinha recognized as warp field parameters. "Phoenix pre-flight check complete," announced the pilot. "All systems nominal. Warp core stable and responding." "Excellent," Jake said. "Ambassador, your team might want to secure your safety harnesses. First warp jumps can be a bit disorienting." As Tadantsek, Jinha fastened the harness across his chest. He realized that he was about to witness something truly historic. Not just humans' first warp flight, but perhaps the beginning of a new era in galactic relations. "Initiating launch sequence," the pilot called out. "Conventional engines engaging." The Phoenix rose smoothly from the desert floor, accelerating upward through Earth's atmosphere. Jinha watched on the displays as the blue sky darkened to black, stars appearing as they reached space. "Orbit achieved," the pilot reported. "Course to Alpha Centauri laid in." Jake turned to look at Jinha and his team. "Ready to make history?" Before Jinha could respond, Rex spoke up. "What he means is, ready to see if our crazy human ideas actually work." Harin laughed. "Very ready." Jake nodded to the pilot. "Engage. Warp drive." The stars on the view screen stretched into lines of light and the Phoenix leapt into the unknown. The Phoenix moved through warp space with surprising grace. Jinha had experienced hundreds of warp jumps in his long career, but this felt different. Smoother. The usual vibration that accompanied Council ships at warp was noticeably absent. "Your warp field is remarkably stable," Harin observed, studying the readings on her personal device. "How did you achieve this level of field coherence?" Rex smiled. "We took a different approach to the quantum matrix. Instead of forcing stability through power, we created a self-adjusting field that responds to space-time variations." "That's not how warp fields are supposed to work," Quan said, frowning at his own readings. "Maybe not in Council ships," Jake replied. But our approach works too. Sometimes there's more than one right answer to a problem. Jinha watched the humans operate their ship with easy confidence. They moved like a team that had worked together for years, not days. Each person knew their role, anticipated needs before they were spoken. It was impressive and unsettling at the same time. "Approaching Alpha Centauri," announced the pilot, preparing to drop out of warp. The streaking stars on the view screen suddenly resolved into normal points of light. Before them hung the twin stars of Alpha Centauri, glowing bright against the blackness of space. "Warp jump complete," the pilot reported. "All systems nominal. We've arrived at Alpha Centauri." A cheer went up from the human crew. They had done it. Their first warp flight, successful on the first attempt. Jinha exchanged glances with Harin and Quan. All three were thinking the same thing. This was unprecedented. "Congratulations," Jinha said formally. "You have achieved what few species manage on their first attempt." "Thanks," Rex said, grinning widely. "But this is just the beginning. We're already designing larger ships, planning longer journeys." Jinha felt a flutter of concern. "The Council will want to discuss your expansion plans. There are established protocols for new warp-capable species." Jake's expression grew serious. "Ambassador, we respect the Council's experience, but Earth will chart its own path among the stars. We hope to do that in partnership with the Council, not under its control." The directness of the statement hung in the air. This was the crux of the matter. The Council expected new species to follow its guidance, to accept its authority. Humans clearly had other ideas. "Perhaps we should enjoy this historic moment before discussing politics," Harin suggested diplomatically. "Good idea," Rex agreed. "We've brought something special for the occasion." He floated to a storage compartment and returned with a bottle and several small cups. "Champagne," he explained. "It's a traditional Earth drink for celebrating important events." As Rex carefully poured the bubbling liquid into floating globules that they caught in the cups, Jinha considered the situation. The Council would expect him to maintain the traditional position that humans must accept guidance, must follow the established path. But everything he had seen suggested that approach would fail. "A toast," Jake said, raising his cup. "To new journeys and new friendships among the stars." Jinha raised his cup as well. "To new beginnings," he added. They drank the champagne, which tickled Jinha's throat pleasantly. Another human innovation. They even approached food and drink with creativity. "We'll spend an hour here collecting data," Jake explained. "Then head back to Earth. A short first trip, but an important one." Jinha nodded. "What will you do next?" "Build more ships," Rex said immediately. "Explore further. Learn everything we can about the galaxy." "And establish colonies?" Quan asked, his tone cautious. Jake shrugged. "Eventually, yes. Humans have always expanded outward. It's in our nature to seek new horizons." "The Council regulates colonization carefully," Jinha pointed out. "Many star systems are already claimed by other species." "We understand," Jake Yu assured him. "We're not looking to cause conflicts. There's plenty of room in the galaxy for everyone." Jinha wasn't so sure. The Council's careful management of expansion had prevented major wars for millennia. Humans, with their rapid development and unpredictable approaches, could upset that balance. "I must be honest with you," Jinha said. "The Council is concerned about your rapid acquisition of warp technology. They fear you may advance too quickly, without developing the wisdom to use your capabilities responsibly." Rex laughed. "No offense, Ambassador, but humans have heard that argument before, from other humans. Every new technology brings warnings about moving too fast. Sometimes those warnings are valid. Sometimes they're just fear of change." "And which do you think this is?" Harin asked curiously. "A bit of both," Jake admitted. "We understand the Council's concerns. Stability is important, but progress matters too. Finding the balance is the challenge." Jinha was struck by the maturity of the response. Perhaps humans understood more than he had given them credit for. "The hour is almost up," the pilot announced, preparing for return jump to Earth. As the Phoenix crew made their preparations, Jinha moved to a viewport and gazed at Alpha Centauri. Humans had reached another star system. Whatever happened next, this moment was historic. "Beautiful, isn't it?" Rex said, joining him at the viewport. "Yes," Jinha agreed. "I've seen many star systems, but the first view of a new one never loses its wonder." "That's something we have in common then," Rex said. "Wonder, the desire to see what's out there." Jinha turned to look at the human scientist. "The Council fears you will move too quickly, spread too fast." "And what do you fear, Ambassador?" Rex asked directly. Jinha considered the question. "I fear that in trying to control you, we will turn potential friends into enemies." Rex nodded slowly. "A wise concern. So what will you tell the Council?" "The truth," Jinha said. "That humans are unlike any species we have encountered before. That traditional approaches may not work with you." "And what will you recommend?" Jinha smiled slightly. "That we learn from you even as you learn from us." "Preparing for warp jump," called the pilot. "Return course to Earth laid in." Everyone returned to their seats and secured their harnesses. The stars stretched once more as the Phoenix leapt back into warp space, heading home. 1 month later, Jinha stood in the Grand Council chamber on the central world of Galactia. This time he was not appearing as a hologram, but in person. The TA full council had convened for a historic occasion. The massive doors at the end of the chamber opened. Jake Morrison and Rex entered, followed by several other humans in formal attire. They walked confidently down the center aisle, showing appropriate respect but no sign of intimidation. The elder rose from the central seat. "Representatives of Earth, welcome to the Galactic Council." Jake bowed slightly. "Thank you, Elder. We are honored to be here." "Ambassador Jinha has shared his reports of your remarkable achievements," the Elder continued. "The Council has debated at length how to respond to Earth's rapid development." Jinha watched the humans carefully. They stood straight, attentive but relaxed. They showed none of the nervousness that most species displayed when first addressing the full council. "After much consideration," the elder said, "the council has decided to offer Earth a new type of relationship. Not as a guided species, but as a provisional partner." Murmurs spread through the chamber. This was unprecedented. New species always went through centuries of guidance before being considered for partnership. "We are grateful for the offer," Jake replied. "Earth is eager to work with the Council and all galactic species in a spirit of mutual respect and cooperation." "There will be conditions," the Rigelian representative pointed out sharply. "Limits on expansion. Protocols for technology development." Rex smiled. "We understand the need for reasonable guidelines. We're not looking to disrupt the peace you've built. We want to contribute to it." Jinha felt a surge of hope. Perhaps this could work after all. Humans would never accept the traditional path of slow, controlled development. But a partnership, with mutual respect and shared goals, that might be possible. "There is much to discuss," the elder said. "Terms to negotiate, boundaries to establish." "We look forward to those discussions," Jake said. "But first, we've brought a gift for the council." He gestured, and another human entered carrying a small device. Jinha recognized it immediately, another modified warp core. "This is our latest design," Rex explained. "It's 60% more efficient than standard council drives and produces no tachyon waste. We offer it freely as a symbol of our commitment to sharing knowledge." The council chamber fell silent. The gift was both generous and strategic, a demonstration of human capabilities and a gesture of goodwill in one. The elder accepted the device with formal grace. "On behalf of the council, I thank you. This marks the beginning of a new chapter in galactic history." As the ceremony continued, Jinha caught Haren's eye across the chamber. She smiled slightly and nodded. They both understood what was happening. The galaxy was changing. The careful order maintained for thousands of years was giving way to something new, something unpredictable. And humans, with their strange minds, their leaps of intuition, their refusal to accept limitations, were at the center of that change. Jinha watched as Jake and Rex spoke with council members, already building relationships, already looking to the future. Whatever happened next, one thing was certain. The galaxy would never be the same again, and perhaps Jinha thought that was exactly what it needed.